In today's day and age, and we'll talk about it quite a bit today, breaches are inevitable. Attack surface is way too large. Attackers are unbelievably more sophisticated and well-funded than they've ever been before. So it's inevitable that they will break into your network at some point in time. You have to contain that breach so it doesn't become a disaster.
What has changed is the speed. You don't have the option now to wait for weeks and months to do things.
Talking about the importance of segmentation. They've talked about the importance of zero trust for quite a long time, but now they're talking about the importance of segmentation as a core control that you need to have in your environment.
For decades, cybersecurity has been built around one main objective: keeping the attackers out. However, Frontier AI has introduced new challenges to all cybersecurity professionals out there that are monitoring the most critical assets of the organizations that they are protecting. In today's episode, we will evaluate how are Bell Cyber and Illumio closing this gap by introducing the concepts of microsegmentation and autonomous SOC operations. For that, I'm pleased to introduce Todd Palmer, SVP of Global Partner Sales and Alliances at Illumio, and John Meneses, President and CEO at Bell Cyber. Welcome to the show, folks.
Thanks, Diego.
Thank you, Diego.
Todd, many of our listeners have probably heard the name Illumio, but they may not fully understand what does it do. In today's cybersecurity ecosystem, where does Illumio fit, and can you probably give us an overview of it?
Yeah, happy to. And we're in the breach containment space. In today's day and age, and we'll talk about it quite a bit today, breaches are inevitable. Attack surface is way too large. Attackers are unbelievably more sophisticated and well-funded than they've ever been before. So it's inevitable that they will break into your network at some point in time. You have to contain that breach so it doesn't become a disaster. And one thing in common that every breach has is they break in, they move laterally, taking advantage of vulnerabilities in your system till they find what they're after. And that's the part that we stop. We protect catastrophes happening in our customers' environments.
Correct. So it's not only about protecting or preemptively protecting these assets, but also protecting the impact of any potential cybersecurity attack, because we stand from what happens if there is an attack. Right?
That's exactly right.
John, from your point of view, has Frontier AI fundamentally changed the game in cybersecurity, or is just the next evolution of the cyber threats?
I think Frontier AI has dramatically changed cybersecurity. I think what we are seeing in the last 2 or 3 months since Anthropic announced Mythos, I believe is game changing. It's going to change everything that we do with cybersecurity. Our whole approach to cybersecurity has to change. And I think it's forcing cybersecurity professionals to change. I think we've been resistant. AI has been around for the last 2 or 3 years, and cybersecurity professionals have been refusing to change. I think Frontier AI has now, made that mandatory. You have to change the way you approach cybersecurity, or you are not going to survive. What do you think, Todd?
I agree 100%. You have to assume that you are going to be breached or you are already breached. And that's a big shift in thinking throughout our customers.
Todd, for many years, organizations have heavily invested in defensive security tools mainly. EDR, next generation firewalls, email security, web gateway security tools as well. And yet, ransomware still succeed. Why do you think that happened?
As I mentioned this earlier today, the attackers are exponentially more sophisticated, more well-funded. The attack surface is much larger than it's ever been in history and only getting larger. Those breaches are inevitable. And you have to assume that you will be breached and protect yourself from those becoming catastrophic. And they all move laterally throughout your environment. If you look at just the overall zero trust architecture, and I know you do a lot of consulting around zero trust, it starts with identity, access, and then segmentation, stopping lateral movement. That's been the last part that people have adopted, and that's the most critical to contain a breach, is stopping that lateral movement throughout an organization. And so we're starting to see a massive uptick in the amount of companies that are investigating this space right now because they realize it's critical. Attacks will happen, and you need to make sure that you can contain them.
John, how did this assume breach philosophy change the way you're approaching to cybersecurity or the way you approach to cybersecurity in the last 4 years?
I think I think as cybersecurity professionals, we don't want to assume breach, because for the last 30 years we've been talking about prevention, and I think every CISO is mortally afraid about being breached, and I think he or she is mortally afraid that if they get breached, they're going to get fired, and 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 so the whole concept of assume breach is new. So people are learning, people are learning how to get through this process of assume breach, and then once you assume breach, then it's a question of making sure the blast radius is contained. So you've got two problems. You've got to assume breach, and then you've got to make sure the blast radius is contained. And I think that's where products like Illumio and micro-segmentation are becoming so relevant to the game that we're playing in cybersecurity. But it is a mindset shift that is taking place. And no matter how Illumio and Bell Cyber think that we should be moving very quickly, the mindset has to change. And for CISOs who have for 30 years talked about prevention, to now simply say one day that, hey, you know what, we are going to assume breach, and we're now going to focus on containing the blast radius, it's a difficult shift.
And that's a difficult conversation that they have to have with their CFO, who they've been talking about preventative technologies and building budgets around that forever, saying, hey, now we're going to assume that we're going to be. That's just a different conversation that they need to have. The good news is, and I'd be interested, we're starting to see CFOs and boards of directors starting to understand that concept more now than ever before. Are you seeing that as well?
Absolutely. I think it's a realization. There's a realization that frontier AI has changed the game. So we've been talking about AI having an impact. Now we're seeing frontier AI. The impact is real. And when you have the Five Eyes coming out with a briefing just a few weeks ago saying that, hey, you know what? We think that AI is moving even faster than we thought it was going to move. So now the Five Eyes, all the intelligence agencies, making sure, bringing this to light. I think boards and everybody is now concerned about the blast radius, about assuming breach. So I think the mindset is going to change, and it's going to force people to change and change quickly.
Correct. I like the fact that we are changing a little bit the mindset, and instead of asking ourselves, how do I stop every single attack, we should be asking ourselves, what happens when one of them gets through, right? So that's a new way of thinking through these attacks.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that companies like Illumio, companies like Bell Cyber are going to help our customers, our prospects. It's almost like, as I told the team the other day, you've got to take the customer by the hand across the street. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, totally agree.
Todd, when compromise becomes inevitable, then containment becomes everything. How does microsegmentation close this gap from your point of view?
So, the first things that companies need to do is they need to get visibility across their entire environment to understand what is the allowable communication between your different systems and applications that you have in your environment. And so if this system, XYZ system, gets breached, do they have a direct line of communication to your mission critical business applications? And can they talk to other things that they're not supposed to, you don't want them to? And it's understanding that first and foremost, and then making changes, writing policy, implementing policy to stop that. Nothing should have access to these specific servers or applications unless they absolutely need it. And so when we talk about breach containment, those are some of the critical things that need to happen in your environment, but it stops with the importance of understanding what is the communication that's allowed and disallowed in your environment today, which, by the way, is the foundation of zero trust.
John, how does AI, or better, how does the autonomous SOC come in picture in order to contain these blast radius, or in order to pretty much hold on a little bit the impact of an attack?
I think the autonomous SOC AI is giving us the ability to react in seconds. Okay, we have to stop the bleeding, and that's the key. And so I've been talking about stopping the bleeding for the last 4 years. Okay, so now we're talking about stopping the bleeding is reducing the blast radius. Same difference. Okay, and the autonomous SOC is giving us the ability to react in seconds. And it's something that, again, we need to be able to react in seconds because humans cannot do it anymore. We'd like humans to do everything, but humans cannot do it anymore. So that is why our autonomous SOC is giving us the ability to stop the bleeding and react very, very quickly.
The humans definitely can't do it at the speed of AI, and so you are using AI to fight AI-based attacks.
Absolutely. I was I was watching a video on YouTube the other day, and one of the CEOs of one of the large cybersecurity companies he said, when you're being attacked by a swarm, you need a swarm to defend yourself. And I think that's exactly what we're doing. When you're being attacked by frontier AI, you need frontier AI to defend it. And I believe this. You don't have a choice. You have to use frontier AI.
What are the companies that you've been talking to about this? What's their reaction been to it?
So until the advent of Mythos, people were kind of reluctant about using AI. People say to me, John, I don't know if AI is safe. I don't know what guardrails are in place. Maybe we'll look at AI in the future in 2027 or maybe 2028. We'll start looking at AI as a defense mechanism. And then, lo and behold, Mythos was announced, and Project Glasswing, and then OpenAI came out with what they think their frontier AI is capable of doing. And now, all of a sudden, there's a mindset change. And now customers are saying, how can I use AI? What are you doing with AI to defend us? And that is, I think, the advantage that Bell Cyber has had, because we have been doing this for the last 2 years. We've been doing this for the last 2 years. We've been figuring out how do we protect our customers using AI. And we have learned some of the many challenges that people have with using AI to create this cyber defense system in play. And so now I think customers are comfortable with AI. And once again, I come back to this point. We're being forced to use AI. We're not using frontier AI to defend ourselves because we like the idea. We're doing it because now frontier AI is forcing us to use frontier AI to defend ourselves.
Obviously, we always talk about how do we leverage AI at Bell Cyber, how do we do it securely, ethically as well, and how do we get the most out of it. Todd, I would like to understand, how is Illumio leveraging AI solutions and techniques to pretty much stay ahead of threats?
As you were describing the evolution, the work that you guys have been doing the last 4 years around that, a year ago, it was not this way. But right now, every single department within our organization, I would imagine most companies the same way, every single department has an AI initiative within them. The marketing organization, the partner organization, the sales organization, obviously the development organization. So it is just amazing how much it is accelerated over the last couple of years. It's incredible to see the pace that it's happening.
It's been absolutely crazy. It's been absolutely crazy. And I think Bell Cyber, and I always say to people, we've created this autonomous SOC, which is the first of its kind in North America, and I think first of its kind globally, that has this sophisticated level of autonomy for security operations. And I always say to customers, we are cybersecurity experts who have figured out how to use AI to make cyber better. But a lot of time my customers will say, how can I use AI for my help desk? And I always say to customers, AI is not my business. Cybersecurity is my business. What we have learned really well is how do we use AI to make cyber better? And that is what our mission is.
I like the fact, Todd, that you mentioned something that is really important to us as well, and is empowering people to use AI wisely. We don't want to stop people from using it, from learning about it, and none of that. Obviously, we have introduced it at the Security Operations Center type of level, but we still want to empower people to use it responsibly. So it's interesting that now we have to even build policies for any sort of people in the organizations to use it and to do it responsibly.
Which creates probably a whole another set of security challenges across an organization as every department's using a different flavor of AI. The CIO and the CISO have to take that into account.
If you were speaking to a CISO today, what would be one piece of advice that you would give him or her in order to continue with these strategies around frontier AI and all these new challenges that have been introduced?
Yeah, it's interesting because our message has not changed at all. The urgency around it has changed dramatically, but the message has not changed. I mean, there are zero trust principles that we're talking about, and the things that we recommend to our clients, number one, what you have to understand, and not all organizations do, what are the most important things that keep your business running every day? What are your most important applications? What are important business systems? The data that is most important to your business that cannot be breached. Like if that something happens, your business goes down. So understanding that first and foremost. Two, understanding the connectivity throughout your organization. What has the ability to talk to those systems? And then from there, making sure that you take them off your unbelievably flat network to protect them from that lateral movement risk in your environment. That message is not different, but frontier AI is accelerating the urgency around that more than ever before.
That's great. Todd stole my answer. Because it's funny, but that's exactly right. The fundamentals of cybersecurity have not changed. You still have to do the fundamentals. What has changed is the speed. You don't have the option now to wait for weeks and months to do things. You have to do things in hours and days. And on the detection side, no longer, we used to have a 5-minute time to containment, and I was so pleased that we can contain things in 5 minutes, and that was fantastic. With frontier AI, 5 minutes is an eternity. 5 minutes is a lifetime. So now we have to do the same fundamentals, but now we have to detect, and we've got to respond in seconds, and that is what the challenge is for CISOs. The fundamentals have not changed. Fundamentals of cybersecurity have not changed. I've been doing this for over 30 years. It's not changed. What AI is doing to us is making us react faster. We have to react in seconds, and I think that is what's changing, and that's why we have to use more AI, because in order to get the reaction time down to seconds, we have to figure this out. And something else that Bell Cyber is doing, we are working on a domain-specific LLM for cybersecurity. And why are we working on the domain-specific LLM for to solve two problems? We want a deterministic answer, and we want a quick answer. And so with having a deterministic approach and having a domain-specific LLM for cyber, we'll be able to solve both these problems. But again, like Todd said, fundamentals have not changed.
Yeah. And speaking of fundamentals, they've always said, right, having great IT hygiene is unbelievably important. I mean, patch management is not an easy thing, given the years and years of old antiquated technology we have in their environment. But you have to figure out a way to do it exponentially faster than you've ever done it before. You have to use AI to improve your patch management speeds out there. And then the ones that are going to take longer to get to, you have to isolate those. You have to write policies to take them off the network, off your flat network, and protect them.
I agree, Todd, and I was going to add pretty much the same. It looks like you stole my answer as well. But what we have seen so far is that we are approaching to the clients to be able to speed up this process of patching and putting security controls in front of these vulnerabilities. But we still see that the urgency hasn't changed much on their mindsets, on their heads, right? How do we move things around? How do we make them understand how critical these process of patching and remediating vulnerabilities is?
I'd love to hear your response to this as well too, but we are seeing a massive increase in urgency just over the last 4 or 5 months. And every day we're seeing more and more and more of this. I was in Europe last week, and the ECB just sent a letter to the 30 largest financial institutions in Germany that they have to put these practices in place to protect themselves, to protect their customers' data. Those things are creating a massive sense of urgency. We're seeing opportunities that would take 12 and 18 months prior those projects happening in 3 to 4 months timeframes at major large global organizations. So we are seeing a massive uptick in the sense of urgency. Is that what you're also seeing as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I feel sorry for security folks, okay, because
Of
we
course.
already had vulnerabilities. Okay, whenever you met a customer, they always had thousands of vulnerabilities. They had critical vulnerabilities and high vulnerabilities. And now what Mythos has done, it's made the low vulnerabilities, low severity vulnerabilities, equally important, because what Mythos is doing is daisy chaining low vulnerabilities to create a high vulnerability. So now you have a CISO that has thousands of vulnerabilities. Now they're using frontier AI to figure out new vulnerabilities. So now you have a whole bunch of vulnerabilities. But what the CISOs need is the approval of the business to take risk. Okay. Today, when we want to fix a vulnerability, we go through a very long, cumbersome process of figuring out whether this vulnerability is going to cause an outage or not. I think the days are coming when the CISO will be allowed to take a risk and to perhaps incur an outage, which is something that has been unimaginable for the last 30 years. Nobody wants an outage. Availability is king. And if you are going to do anything to take an application down, nobody wants to do it, and you're not allowed to do it. As a matter of fact, the CISOs get fired for taking an application down, a critical business application down. I think you're seeing a change where CEOs and boards are now saying to CISOs, you can go ahead and take that risk, because that outage might be the lesser of the two evils.
Protecting yourself from catastrophe.
That's exactly right. And I think that is the change that is happening. On the flip side, with everybody checking all the code for vulnerabilities, in a couple of years, maybe the whole concept of vulnerabilities is going to be obsolete, because nobody is going to release any code that has not been checked by frontier AI to see if any vulnerabilities. So maybe this whole concept of vulnerabilities, maybe all the vulnerability manufacturers, all these vulnerability tools will all go away, and we'll be talking about something else. It won't be vulnerabilities anymore.
I'm glad, John, that you mentioned something really important, and it's the fact that cybersecurity teams need to be humble. When I say this, it means that we need to recognize that there will be vulnerabilities, there will be a breach. And obviously we have to work on containment, and we have to work on creating strategies and security controls and all of that. But it's all about categorizing the impact of each one of these breaches and each one of these threats. And I think that's how we can basically create a better strategy around them.
Agreed.
Absolutely, Diego. That's the way it is. That's the way of the future.
Todd, what does the industry say about microsegmentation?
Diego, if okay with you, I'm going to expand the question a little bit as well too, to include other entities as well too. So over the last couple years, we've seen different industry regulations and guidelines talking about the importance of segmentation. Financial services started first, and then we're seeing all these other organizations and all these other industries start to adopt those things and talk about the importance of segmentation. I made a comment about the ECB in the letter that they just put out there as well too. But you've got these industry-based analysts, the Forresters and the Gartners of the world, talking about the importance of segmentation. They've talked about the importance of zero trust for quite a long time, but now they're talking about the importance of segmentation as a core control that you need to have in your environment. In fact, Gartner is going to be coming out with a Magic Quadrant later on this year as well too, which is going to be fantastic. It's going to drive more awareness about the importance of segmentation to all those customers who rely on those analysts for their guidance and recommendations. So we're seeing a lot of this movement that's happening in the market, and we're excited the awareness that it's going to bring for those customers so they can understand how important it is to put in their environment.
No, that's great. It's good to see Gartner taking the lead on this, because a lot of CISOs, a lot of CIOs, a lot of CEOs follow what Gartner's saying. And I think, when the Magic Quadrant comes out, we're going to see Illumio well placed. But just from my own personal experience from our customers, some of our customers where we've worked with customers to deploy Illumio, the customers are very happy with the results. They're very happy with the ease of implementation. the ease of customization. The creating policies and stuff like that is not always an easy task for CISOs. So now with Illumio, we've been able to deploy the product easily. Customers are happy. So I'm not surprised that when Gartner comes out with a magic quadrant that Illumio is going to be well placed. Just from my personal experience, I can place them well in the magic quadrant today. So we'll see what happens when Gartner comes out in November.
Definitely.
Ease of use is something that we think about on a daily basis. Our development organization, you want make it easy for your customers to understand how to write policies, use AI to recommend policies that they can write. But it's also, though, partners like Bell Cyber, Bell Canada, like the skills and capabilities that you have to help those customers along that journey has been unbelievably important. So we do all of our business with and through partners like you, and we appreciate Bell Cyber's investment in Illumio.
No, we love products that work well. I've been around the block a few times, so I've seen many partners come out and many companies come out and talk about, their products being the best thing since sliced bread. And it's never the case. But with Illumio, we've had a very pleasant experience over the last couple of years working with Illumio. The product works well, it deploys easy, we don't have any problems. I don't have customers calling me up complaining bitterly that, what my sales team promised them has not been delivered. And I think that's the best thing. And I think now in the world of frontier AI, where customers are looking for speed to deploy products, we can't have products, that are half-baked coming to market. That's not going to help them, and it's not going to help us. And with our autonomous SOC and our ability to do things, rapidly, I think that's key. The key to have a product that actually delivers what it says it can, and I think that's key.
Correct. And first of all, congratulations. We all recognize how important is to be supported by these, by the industry in this case, by Gartner, by the security researchers, and how critical microsegmentation became nowadays. It's important. You guys mentioned something really basic, and it's one of the foundations of cybersecurity as well, and is the easy of use, right? How easy it is for companies to use it, to deploy it, to execute those security controls, how functional it can be, and at the end of the day, how secure it, or what security it provides to the organizations. So congrats for that mention on in Gartner.
Thank you. Well, not out yet, but we're excited for it for later on this year. I think it's going to be a wonderful thing for the companies that have been evaluating these technologies for many years.
A couple of rapid fire questions. John, why Illumio?
Well, we're looking at microsegmentation. We're looking at products that can solve the problem. And I think 2 or 3 years ago, we looked at Illumio. And at Bell Cyber, everything's about, how good is the technology? Because at Bell Cyber, we're all a bunch of techies. So the technology's got to work well before we do anything. So we looked at Illumio, and, we brought it into our lab, and we did some testing, and it seemed to work well. And then I think we sold it to a couple of customers, and we implemented it, and the implementation was easy, and the policy definitions was easy. And most importantly, the customers love the output and the results, the outcomes. Like I'm a great believer in outcomes. So for me, once I saw that, Illumio was a no-brainer for me.
I agree. The feedback that we get from clients on a daily basis is awesome. Todd, why Bell Cyber?
I'm not sure there's a more connected company in Canada than Bell Cyber. And just the expertise and the investment and what you just said is you believed in segmentation. Your organization believed in the importance of segmentation. You did the evaluations looking at other technology companies out there that are in the same space, and you made the decision that this was the easiest and the best technology out there. That's what customers want from organizations like you. It's, hey, we can do business with any of the companies, but we pick and choose the best technology that we think is available on the market. That means the world to your customers, as you know. And so we've appreciated the partnership, the investment, the expertise that you have, not only in terms of recommendation throughout the sales process, but also making sure that it's successful in your customer's environment and they get quick time to value. That's exactly what we just appreciate.
That's exactly right. Time to value is key. And with frontier AI, everything is moving rapidly. So having a product like Illumio that we can install and we can see time to value rapidly, It's music to my ears. It's music to my ears, and most importantly, it's music to my customers' ears.
Yeah.
Todd, John, thank you so much for joining us today, and thanks everyone for watching.
Diego, thank you. Appreciate it. John, thank you.
Todd, thanks very much again, coming all the way here. And Diego, as usual, thank you very much. Great.